We've learned so far that belief in God doesn't automatically result in knowing God in an intimate relationship. We've learned that belief in God doesn't automatically result in a genuine heart conviction that God loves us. Today, we're going to examine the Christian atheism of believing in God but not in prayer. As I said before, there's got to be a better way to live than Christian atheism. This is the third of an 8-part series called The Christian Atheist, Believing in God but Living as If God Doesn't Exist. It's for anyone who is courageous enough to admit their hypocrisy and who are willing to grow in faith. Again, let me profusely thank Craig Groeschel, who wrote the book, The Christian Atheist, Believing in God but Living as If He Doesn't Exist. I'm drawing heavily from his material. We've got a couple of copies left. For $20, you can take that home, cash or check made out to First Presbyterian Church. That'd be great. Okay, I'd like to start with the way Craig Groeschel introduces this chapter. He tells a story about a pastor who once asked his church to pray that God would shut the bar down in the neighborhood. The whole church gathered for an evening prayer meeting, pleading with God to rid the neighborhood of the evils of this bar. A few weeks later, lightning struck the bar and burned it to the ground. Having heard about the church's prayer crusade, the bar owner promptly sued the church. When the court date finally arrived, the bar owner passionately argued that God struck his bar with lightning because of the church members' prayers. The pastor backtracked, brushing off the accusations. He admitted the church prayed, but he also affirmed that no one in his congregation really expected anything to happen. The judge leaned back in his chair, a mix of amusement and perplexity on his face, and he finally spoke and said, "I can't believe what I'm hearing. Right in front of me is a bar owner who believes in the power of prayer and a pastor who doesn't." The truth is that some Christian atheists believe in God, but not in prayer. They might claim that prayer works, but their actions say otherwise. Some rarely pray, and when they do, they don't expect anything to change. I have to admit, at times in my Christian life, that describes me. I've never been particularly good at praying. If prayer were a sport and we were picking teams, I might be the last guy picked. And I know that I'm not alone. We Christian atheists create long lists of reasons not to pray. From feeling we're not good enough at it, to being bored when we do pray, from not wanting to bother God with our small requests, to not thinking our prayers can actually make a difference. These are the hurdles that people must get over in order to believe in prayer. One by one, over time, God can change your attitude toward prayer as God is changing mine. If you're not there yet, don't worry. We all have to start somewhere. Many Christian atheists believe in God but don't practice regular prayer, believing they aren't good enough at it, believing they don't know how to pray, believing that God won't answer their prayers because their requests are too small, or because they don't think their prayers actually can make a difference. The obstacles we have to overcome. Let's look at each one. Okay. Many of us fear that we aren't good enough at it, so we don't pray. We don't think we're eloquent enough or passionate enough. Instead of trying and failing, we don't try at all. We forget that God loves the prayer of imperfect people, the people who know they're helpless on their own, who reach out to God, who know they need God when it comes to prayer. So many of us don't pray because we don't feel we're good enough at it. For some, prayer is simply boring. our minds wander in prayer. In the middle of a conversation with the creator of the universe, I sometimes remember that my battery in my BlackBerry needs to be charged. When prayer becomes an empty, meaningless ritual, it is boring. But when you remember who you're talking to, when you acknowledge that the God of the universe is honestly excited to talk to you, your attitude toward prayer will change. When you're feeling as if prayer is boring, I've got a suggestion. Move the focus from yourself to God. Prayer becomes fresh and exciting, even fun when you do that. Prayer becomes talking to a close friend with whom you can share your heart, your fears, and your dreams. One more excuse for avoiding prayer. We just aren't sure our prayers will make a difference. We've tried praying before, and nothing seems to happen. After several failed attempts, prayer seems at best ineffective, and at worst, a waste of time. So we avoid prayer because we don't think we're good enough at it. Many of us think it's boring, and some of us aren't sure that it's going to make a difference. And those become our excuses for not praying. These are the obstacles we put in the way of prayer. So our question this morning is, how do we overcome these obstacles?